My name is Chris Polnansky. I'm a consultant in the geotechnical and surveying fields, and PIAM asked me to share my thoughts about some of the project management tools we use out on newer construction sites. It used to be that with a large project under the old method of doing things, that you would have a site, you would have the ability to lay out the material, schedule it, basically have it all sitting out there waiting for the construction crews to make use of it. As we get into the later phases of the home development, we see that we have less space to work with. We have crews that are working on tighter and tighter budgets and tighter schedules, which require a lot of flexibility. Sort of a just-in-time mentality has grown in response to this. So instead of having one master plan where somebody sits back at the office and says, this is the way it's worked before, so we're going to do it again this way, with maybe some slight changes to allow for margin, we're looking at scheduling and forecasting everything in terms of how fast can this particular crew do a particular job. Are we going to have the material for those people on the site when they need it? And how fast can we get that material off-site, barring any problems, so that we can move on to the next phase of construction in this particular situation? So you have to do a lot of gauging in terms of what did these people do before for performance? Can they provide the same amount of manpower and get the job done more quickly? Or if I'm on a tighter schedule, do I need to instead have them bring more manpower? Do I need to give them more material? Do I need to advance their tools or technology? And is it still going to fit under my cost-benefit analysis by the time all is said and done? In a lot of these cases, we see that we end up with stoppage. Again, in home construction, you're continually getting inspected. There are red cards all the time. So we end up with a little bit of dip and sway that we also need to be able to cover over. Again, this is something of a just-in-time situation where we might have a crew that has to get pulled off because they have a client that's more important than us, for example, for 3 or 4 days. So we do spend a lot of time looking at where we want to get to, and if we're actually on track to get there. And we break that down into half weeks, we break that down into weeks, sometimes 2 or 3 days at a time, because of the logistics of getting people and stuff onto the site. So again, we depart from the overarching, this is the way we've always done it. We take a month to frame out the buildings, or we take a month to dig the buildings, and then we take another week, 3 weeks to frame the buildings, and so on and so forth. We're constantly moving. We might have one crew dig a couple of buildings, and then while the flat work crew is coming in to deal with that, the digging crew might be off in a completely separate site. Some of the things that we look at on the outside is teaching the crews some of the finer points of keeping the site clean. In terms of, let's not knock out surveyors' stakes. Let's not park equipment. Let's be aware of where the position of things are really going to be, so that you don't park there, you don't park your tractor there, things of that nature.
My name is Ali Reza. I'm one of PIAM's friends, hereby talking about aspects of IT project management. Right now I'm doing graduate studies of computer science at PSU. Before I started my college education, I got my Microsoft engineering certificate and started working for an IT company in Iran, doing management and administration of financial institutions network in Iran. IT management uses, at least for the Microsoft networks, uses a framework called the Microsoft Operational Framework, developed by Microsoft, and is based on an international framework for IT infrastructure management called ITIL. The framework, the Microsoft framework, encompasses all the aspects of management of a IT lifecycle, such as risk management, change management, planning, operation, and so forth. To implement that in our workplace, we used Microsoft SharePoint Portal Server and also Microsoft Project Management Server to integrate all the knowledge management and project management information together. Because MOF is essentially a kind of agile project management tool, it requires a great deal of communication between project management people and operational people and also the customer. And SharePoint any kind of portal server allows the people to communicate efficiently.
Hello, my name is Anahita and I work at Microsoft as a learning and development specialist. Payam has asked me to talk about the project management technique or tool we use at Microsoft to help our project run efficiently, and I decided to talk about stakeholder analysis, which is a technique to systematically identify your stakeholders, gather information about them, and analyze the data to determine whose interests you should take into account during your project. As you know, a very important part of project management is identifying your stakeholders and analyzing the role, responsibilities, degree of influence, requirement, and expected support or opposition to your project. So meeting your stakeholders' expectation is really important since they have an interest in your project and are affected by the result in a positive or negative way, and they can make vital decisions and crucial contribution to your project. So to perform this stakeholder analysis, we first identify all potential stakeholders, the role, interests, expectations, and influence level. To make sure you have identified all your stakeholders, you can get help from others who may or may not be involved in the project, such as executives, subject matter experts, or other project managers. The second step is to identify the impact or support these stakeholders could generate and categorize the key stakeholders according to their level of authority, interest, and impact. Then you finish the assessment by formulating a plan to enhance the stakeholder support or mitigate potential negative impact. This is a very powerful technique to ensure all your stakeholders and their relevant information have been taken into account, to prevent any unpleasant surprises, and to build strong relationships that help your project get on the success path. I hope the information I provided was helpful and relevant to the topic of this presentation. Thank you.